So thanks for coming. Basically, what these workshops are, and they're probably going to be small each week, but what these workshops are is a chance for us to work together on how we can use computing to do our work more effectively. And the series of workshops really was born out of a feeling on my part that there were so many little things that I was spending a lot of time on that were taking away from what I really wanted to be spending my time on. And so the question that I started to ask was, how can I use computing to take away some of that mundane, repetitious work so that I could focus on the real research or teaching that I wanted to do. And so this was a question I started to ask last September when I was on sabbatical. And what was fortuitous was that Bill Turkle, who is in the Department of History at Western, was giving us a lot of thought too. And so Bill and I started to talk back and forth about what he was doing. And Bill's at a whole other level. He did his PhD at MIT, he writes code, and so he was really coming up with a very grand scheme that he called the method, and that he basically then instantiated for his own workflows and processes, and he shared online in a blog, and I can point you to the blog later on. What I decided to do was simplify that for people who weren't technophiles like Bill. So, for the rest of us, how can we use these kinds of digital workflows to take that mundane, repetitive work out of our lives as much as possible, and to really use computing for what computing can do. So we called it the digital method, and Spencer was enlisted, and we started to work on this. And I used it through my sabbatical, and then Spencer, when he came on in May, I think really jumped into it full hog. And basically, what we're going to do each week, or every Wednesday and Friday, is go through one application or one problem and talk about how we can use computing to do the work more effectively and better. So today we're going to talk about Dropbox and Evernote, and then it builds. And what will happen is that today is it's something not overly complicated, and as we move through it gets increasingly challenging. And so essentially, just look and see if the problem that we articulate in that schedule is a problem for you, and if so, then of course, please be here. But there may be other things you think, no, this is something that's just not going to work for me. And that's something that I want to underline is that what's going to come out, because Spencer and I are going to do this together. And in fact, next Wednesday, Spencer will be on his own for Zotero, which is just as well, because he's much better at it than I am. But we're going to talk about the different ways that we use some of these things. So you may find, that one way that I approach using this piece of software to solve this problem works better for you. You might find Spencer's ways more applicable to your particular situation. But the point is there's no one way to do this, but altogether it's kind of a large workflow that front to back simplifies things. And the first principle is essentially that everything that we come across should be digital now. So we are, and this is one thing that struck me, overwhelmed with paper that we write stuff on and then we lose track of, and then we're frustrated because we're not sure if it's in the home filing cabinet or the Office 1 or the Office 2 or in the lab. And so that's the first principle, is that if everything's digital, then everything can be searchable. Then every piece of content that we come across is always there for us. Nothing should theoretically and actually realistically ever be lost to us. And so that's something that will start today and will go all the way through. What that means, for instance, is when I get a piece of paper and I do write on it, then I scan it directly after, or I try to remember to scan it. Sometimes I do lose them. But so now I have a record of the conversation I had, decisions we made, or ideas that popped up along the way. So that's kind of the first principle. Everything has to be digital. Then the second principle is that if it's all digital, as I said, it's all searchable. We've always got it. And thirdly, that it's basically always there for us. So it should be somewhere other than a specific contained place, like on that computer hard drive. It should be in Dropbox. So that's kind of a lead-in to talking about what we're going to talk about today, which is Dropbox and Evernote. Before I go any further, I just want to acknowledge Spencer, who has been a major part of kind of taking this digital method to the next level and putting together these workshops. So thank you, Spencer. And as I say, we're kind of a tag team. And there may be times where you just say, I'm going to get Spencer's that's so much better. And I also want to credit Bill, because without Bill, we wouldn't really have put this thing together or dreamt it up. And I also want to thank the grad students, because I taught this in the grad course that I taught in the fall, and they gave a lot of feedback. And we're very keen about some things, not so keen about some other things, so that helped us. A quick note, which is to say that we're videotaping what we're doing, so if you have a problem, you want to come back to it, and we talked about it together, we'll put it on YouTube or something. You can always go back and listen to what somebody said at a particular moment that might have solved the problem that you're encountering. And then the last thing is that the point of what happens after Spencer and I are done talking is that we really do this, so that when you walk out of the lab today, it's working for you. So this is not going to be a matter of us talking around things, but actually doing them. So we'll talk for a brief bit, and then we'll actually do it. And because it's a smaller group, we can get stuff done one-on-one. So really quickly then, Dropbox and Evernote consists of, Dropbox is essentially an online space in the cloud where all your data can be parked, and Evernote is the space in the cloud where any kind of new piece of content that you come across can be recorded. So I'm going to defer now to Spencer, who's going to tell you about Dropbox for 5 minutes, and then I'll tell you about Evernote, and then we'll put them on your laptops and let it run from there. Does that make sense?
Cool. Okay. Dropbox is arguably the best invention of all time, simply because it allows you to put all of your data, all of your files, all of your folders into virtual space and access that from any computer, and then you don't have to worry about leaving your hard drive, USB key at home, or having your computer crash and losing all your files. Or if you just work on 2 different computers, having the same files always accessible. I work here in the lab almost every day, but when I'm at home, I have access to the same files without having to switch them back and forth and transfer them. So Dropbox is really straightforward. I'm going to go through it on this computer, you'll be able to see what I'm doing. And getting it set up is a matter of maybe 5 minutes tops, but you'll very quickly become accustomed to it because it works just like any other file system. So you don't have to learn a new management system. If you're used to files on a computer, you can use Dropbox. It's just a matter of getting it set up. So we'll go through that really quickly, and then we can move on to Evernote.
And the point of Dropbox is you always have your files available. It doesn't matter if you're on a library computer or your office desktop computer or your home desktop computer or your laptop or your iPad, or for that matter, your smartphone, your iPhone. Like any of those platforms can access your, the article or chapter 4 that you just wrote on Dropbox. So that's the point of it, is that you're always able to get to what's important.
Even if somebody steals your computer.
Even if someone steals your computer.
So I have a question too. There's been some discussion about Dropbox and privacy or security or something. So I'm just wondering about your thoughts on that. And isn't there also like a Dropbox? Isn't there something called the Dropbox? And I was wondering if you knew anything about that.
Personally, I don't know about the Dropbox.
Okay.
But Dropbox, for the purposes of people who aren't doing highly secure information work, Dropbox is secure enough. They don't access your files. They are legally obligated not to share them, all of those things. If you are working for the NSA, you might want to avoid it. But I haven't come across any examples where that is a serious problem.
But we can't put student stuff up there.
Well, it can't be accessed by anybody except yourself.
Yeah.
So really it's as secure as the email system. So if you've ever emailed
your laptop, right?
Yeah, okay.
If you've ever emailed any student information, it's the same level of security, if not better, because emails are sometimes easier to hack into. So the security issues are theoretically, it could be cracked, but it would have to be a very dedicated attack, which is not likely for what we do. I don't think.
Yeah, my approach is, what's important is they're not using this information. So there are three options essentially. There's Dropbox, Google has just launched a service, and Microsoft has a service. And in each case, they said you have free space on our hard drives that you can park your data. So it's in the cloud and it's always accessible. I like Dropbox because I have a pretty good assurance that they're not doing anything with my data. I don't have the same assurance from Google unless I've missed something so far. And especially after yesterday, you know, Google looks a little less pristine. Yesterday, maybe you heard that Google, when they did their Street View and drove that car around and took pictures of everything, so you've got it on Google Maps, they were also vacuuming up all data that was going through open networks, which is highly, highly unethical.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think Google's still a great company, but I would have some anxiety about what Google is doing with my data. Anyway, Dropbox is probably the safest place to go. And at the end of the day, whether you are parking your data on your hard drive on that machine, or you're parking it on a hard drive somewhere in Connecticut or North Carolina on somebody else's machine, it's all being parked somewhere. And so I don't, at least at an abstract level, have any kind of anxieties about, you know, well, I sent it over there, I can't be assured. Well, someone is more likely to steal your laptop than they are to go and break into Dropbox. I mean, that would be next to impossible.
Great, thank you.
So the first step, obviously, is to download Dropbox. I already have it on this computer, but it's as simple as visiting Dropbox.com and clicking to download Dropbox. So there are two options with Dropbox. You can have the program on your computer. You can go to Dropbox.com and log in and access your files from that website without having to install the program and all of that. And they have a secure website set up. So I can show you, that is as simple as going up here.
That's just to access it and work on it, but you never actually have to have a program on your computer to do that.
You don't, no, to do this part, you don't have to. And, oh, wrong.
Do I use my real name?
Apparently I've forgotten my login.
Yeah, it's like one of those.
But yeah, you can log into it through the website, which is what you have there, or you can download the program.
I've gone down. So the question that I have about it is that I have it, but I have it for sharing with a bunch of other people and other stuff. So I don't know how I then make it so that I have parts that only I get. Just, you know what I mean? Like all my folders are like shared folders and.
Actually, I have a similar question.
Yeah, you can set up, so if I can get into mine.
You want me to go on mine?
I just need to think if I can. Oh, you know what?
Because essentially I can keep the same account, right? As I do for my shared folders, I can then create personal folders.
Yes, absolutely. Essentially, Dropbox distinguishes between. Okay, so wait, I'll go through this. So if you don't have an account, it'll prompt you to create one, and then you have to go through this step where it sets it up. So it says welcome to Dropbox. You have to sort of follow through these, and it'll show you what to do. And so it tells you, you can access them from everywhere through their website. And then alternatively, you can have it installed on your computer, and so there'll always be a little icon there for you to access.
But you need to have it on your computer in order to load things into it, presumably.
You can load things through the website interface.
You could do without downloading it.
Yeah, you could. It's a lot easier to use the program because it works just like a folder on your computer.
Right.
So you don't have to log in each time. You don't need internet access to put things onto it.
Oh, I see, yeah, yeah,
So
okay.
I should probably also download it onto this computer. then?
I would recommend it, yeah.
Okay, so if I already have it, I'm already in here, how do I now download it? Or I have to go
There
to
should be a
download?
link somewhere on there.
Logged in. Or I should just go in there, and just download it.
Is it working for you?
Yeah, can you just go
This is
to,
fun.
yeah,
This is fun, this is doing it.
the main one.
What is it?
Or downloading, or this one?
Yeah, that one should work too.
Sounds like
Okay, I see.
Yep, yeah, so just save that and then it'll,
And then, oh, no,
once it's done, you'll have to run it.
Okay.
Are you going to?
Yes, it's downloading.
You want to allow the following programs?
This is different than,
Oh, it's
that's an
on
add-on.
there? Right, so on your laptop, it will look different.
So I just go to Dropbox?
Yeah, Dropbox.com.
And then it just said,
It'll prompt you.
downloading Dropbox, and I just clicked yes. And it just,
Okay, so this is.
So did you have to create
You want to allow the following to make changes?
a password?
well, I already have an account.
So you'll have to create one, but you can use your Brock email. Like it asks you for an email, so I use my Brock email. Create your own password, and it can,
So if I've done it here, then when I go home,
yeah, if you've created an account, when you go home, when you bring it up, it'll say, do you have an account or not? And if you do, then you just log in, and it'll skip the creating an account part.
What you do need to do, though, is install the program on each computer, right? So each platform needs to have the program to be able to talk to the actual Dropbox
so I have to
that
do it
you
on my
created.
laptop and then the one in the office.
Mm-hmm. Well, once it's set up for good, and it'll automatically, it'll sync the account by itself.
So it's,
Yeah,
now you can just go through.
All right, okay.
Where you are and that.
And like on your, if somebody has a smartphone, they'll download on their smartphone.
Yeah, I have it on mine. I don't use it a whole lot on my phone, but it does work.
Maybe I don't.
And it looks more or less the same. You know, you can just access your file system.
Oh, I see, okay, yeah.
So it looks like a computer, but on a phone.
One of the things that I did was I took a lot of recipes that I could never remember
Yeah.
when I went to the grocery store what I needed.
Oh,
And
that's fun.
I did basically scan them, then I put them in Dropbox. So when I go to the grocery store,
Yeah.
I can see, well, I need this
Yeah,
particular
that's smart.
ingredient, and you always forget, right? So
Yeah.
it's just
You always forget
one little
one thing.
instance of, yeah, exactly.
So we got one question about sharing folders. This is an option. Once you have the program installed, you can right-click on one, on any folder, and it'll say Dropbox. And under that, you can choose to share the folder or not. The default is generally not shared, but if you already have some that are set up, they'll continue to be shared. But any new folder will be just for you. So you have to specify if you do want to share a folder, you have to actually say, this one is dedicated for sharing. And it's a great way to collaborate with people. I think that's part of the main reason that we started using it back and forth. As soon as I started working with Kevin, he said, all right, let's share a folder, and everything we work on will go in here, and we both have access to it. And you can see when other people make changes to files, so if they add, you know, a new meeting report or something, it'll pop up as a little notification that says, such and such a file was added to Dropbox, and then you can, you know, see how those changes are.
Does that come as an email message or that comes?
No, it usually just, well, I'm not sure how it works on a PC. On a Mac, it just pops up in the corner as a little notification. On a PC, it's probably a similar, just a bubble that says Dropbox has a new file.
So supposedly it downloaded.
It's a great way to know what your RA is working on, because stuff would pop up.
Yeah, so if you double click that, it should last.
Do I just want this 2 gigs free?
Yes.
Yeah.
You want them free
Oh,
option.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
I was thinking of kind of quickly on this, that's the one, I presume it's not one,
They
but.
have like this HP cloud type.
Mhm. There are
So this is giving you a
obviously
tool.
other
Yeah,
options.
yeah, I always do, so that is.
But,
This.
Yeah, so,
Want to be
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
around.
we all have some of those.
I know, I'm
yeah,
trying
so
to
it'll
be right, like,
be,
you can
well,
get
that, you,
missing.
this is when you go through, that's your.
And I had one
That's
that
St. James
had-
stuff, so yeah. just-
I had one that was 120 gigabytes, I think, and it
So it's just
died.
telling you what it
The drive in it just died and it won't, I don't even know what was on it that I lost anymore because
Yeah, that's scary.
it just
So
completely.
Dropbox notification
That's
area,
why
I green arrow.
Yeah, Dropbox is never gonna die. That's,
Dropbox
that's one
notification area.
benefit too.
The icon, quickly open your Dropbox
So it
folder,
takes a little while to install, it doesn't.
access the
Yeah.
Dropbox
And the-
website, find
obviously,
information, and
smaller
change your Dropbox.
network.
Yeah, so click
The
on that.
processors.
That's what, oh, that's.
Yeah,
Smaller,
this is
it'll
just
take a little
small,
longer.
because I don't use it
Maybe
for a
it's
lot of stuff.
an image right now. Anyway, we can go to it in a second.
Yeah, I just wanna-
But I use it for enough of stuff that I need to
Show
sync it up with
folders,
my other
no.
computer.
Mhm.
Well, it's thinking so.
Yeah, yes. Probably take a moment.
Yeah.
Well, and the handy thing about Dropbox is that
That's what, I'll just do some files for myself now, and create one.
I'm not actually sure how it does that.
You know, everybody
But
can go
the
in and
server space is virtual,
Literally,
so
create one that was-
it's not necessarily,
Yeah, so everyone
Um,
will if you want.
you can-
Start with the committee and.
when you
Yeah.
have just the basic version, it's I think 2 gigabytes, I think. But you can pick and choose
Is
which
it
ones
working
you want
for
to
you?
share.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna
I guess
overload
You
this
got an account
computer
set up?
Yeah.
because there is a cap on it. Or you can
So
buy
you're good.
more. I
Yeah.
paid for more because I use
So
it all the
now,
time. And I actually, I
click
store
on there.
all of my files
Oh,
that
it's
I'm
not.
currently working on for any reason.
So this is
in
now,
Dropbox because
uh,
it saves a lot
this
of
is you
hassle.
online.
Let's
So
get
this
that.
is your Dropbox. So
Yeah.
what they've done is they've created a photos folder for you. They've created a public folder for you, and they've created a getting started. It just gives you information. So what you can do now is you can create a folder, and then you can start to sync it, or pull your data in or whatever you want to do. So maybe that's the thing. You could create a folder that says review,
All right.
and then you could take the review folder that you have and put it in there. So can we tie up Dropbox?
Yeah, like I think everyone's got it working. That's right.
What Jane doesn't have, so maybe let's do after, because I want to talk and be done at 4.
Yeah.
What Jane doesn't have is sharing it.
Okay.
So you can work with that separately.
Yeah.
So what we've talked about, just to wrap up Dropbox, is a space in the cloud, so to speak, where you've taken all your data and placed it there. You can get it wherever you want, on whatever platform, iPhone, iPad, laptop, desktop you want. The next thing that we're going to talk about briefly is a thing called Evernote. And I tend to use Evernote more than Spencer does. And what Evernote is a space now in the cloud that only exists in the cloud. It doesn't exist on my laptop or anywhere else. So I have no record of what you're seeing here anywhere else except in the cloud. The downside then is that Evernote essentially has total control here. But they seem trustworthy. And moreover, if I really worry, I can always make digital copies and pull them out. But the point of Evernote is to give you a place where anything that you come across, you can instantly record and have in basically one file cabinet or drawer. So we all have those drawers in our chest of drawers in our bedroom or wherever it happens to be, where we just throw everything. Like, I'm not sure where to put this, in it goes, right? And it's stuck. And we know that whenever there's something that we're not sure where it went, it's probably in there somewhere, and we start to pull it out. That's what Evernote is for me. It's the one go-to drawer. So what happened last night, or was that this morning? When did it record? Yeah, this morning, was I came across, when I was glancing through Slate, a recipe for guacamole, which I like to make. And I love this series in Slate. It's called You're Doing It Wrong. And what they do is they take a dish that we all make, and they say you're doing it wrong, and then they give it to you how they think it should be. In my browser, so in Safari or Internet Explorer for you, there's a little Evernote button. I thought, I want to record this page. I clicked it, and it sent it up into the cloud to Evernote, to my Evernote kind of drawer. Yesterday, I was at Hot Docs, the documentary film festival in Toronto, and I ended up in this incredible, as it turned out, session with Davis Guggenheim, who did Waiting for Superman, the YouTube movie that just came out, From the Sky Down. He did An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore, so he's this big-time documentary filmmaker. And they were just throwing out these ideas that were really resonating for a project that I'm working on, and I just wanted to capture them. So on my iPhone, which also has an Evernote app, I was just typing away as these guys were talking. And I pressed save, and I knew it went up to the cloud. So what I have in my Evernote kind of, let's call it drawer, is a bunch of notebooks that I've set up. Spencer basically has about 4 or 5. I have, you have a window now into my life, because anything I come across, I basically just click and grab and later file. What's really key though about Evernote is tagging. And this is something that we should talk about right away because it's fundamentally important to where we're going forward. So one of the other principles that's behind what we're doing is that we are being overwhelmed by data, right? We all feel this. And so we have to figure out a way to deal with it. And your research folder is perfect, right? Because who knows what is in there at this point, right? And I have those folders too. So more and more, what you'll see with these programs and what Spencer does and what I'm doing is tagging a document. And a tag is basically just 1 or 2 words that is a way of capturing what's happening in that document, so that when you search, you don't have to remember, like, am I searching for avocado or am I searching, you just type in a word that you would associate with that, never mind the file name, and it will just pull it out for you. So this is the point of tagging. Tagging says, never mind where you put it, never mind what you called it, what was the idea that you would associate with this, or the 4 or 5 or 6 ideas. Type one of those in, and if you put that tag on this file, then we'll find the file and we'll pull it out. So this is a bad example because I was moving too quickly. I don't think I tagged anything, but I'm really into making espresso right now. So we'll find one of these examples. You can see these are relatively new. Some of this isn't tagged, but what you would do is you would put your tags in here, and so that when you wanted to find it, it would just follow through. And for some reason it's not showing, but I can promise you that these are tagged. So that's Evernote. And so what we'll do is we'll set this up.
Something like
Coffee, espresso.
Yeah. So, but it's different than creating file coffee.
Yeah,
right?
and so this is
So
the
it's
key.
easier than that. But you can type in multiple words that you can tag
Exactly.
with. Oh, is that why? Okay.
And what's happened actually is I was thinking about this workshop, so I thought I should start to organize these a little bit. And then I got bored. So I have like notebooks where I've taken, for instance, coffee, and you'll see if I go in here, I have food and drink, and then I have a coffee. But that takes too long to do. I don't want to do it. And then you get big folders called research, and we're mad at ourselves for doing it. So this way, you can just say, you know what, forget it. I'm not even putting it in little pieces. I'm just going to create a file, and I'm going to tag it with a bunch of tags, and I'll find it later.
Goes under tags.
Yeah, the other benefit of tags.
Goes into the tag one.
You can pick which tag you want to see more of.
Those are my tags.
And so these are all things that he's tagged.
So different things.
And so when you click on one of these,
Let's go Anthony Bourdain.
so these might be in different folders, they're created at different times. There's nothing associating them except that tag. Yeah, that one word that you picked, yeah.
Yeah.
And basically it puts it all together like that. It just lists them all
It can,
like a
yeah.
notepad. How did you know how you got them all just being listed like that, Kevin? Is that something you had to set up? Or is that just how it automatically be tagged?
No, it just generates that list for you.
Just that, okay, so because
You
it's
just
easy
come
to
up-
see it.
And this is really what we're trying to do. We don't have to think about it, we don't have to organize it. I have a thought. The thought is, I would like to, I would like to capture what's happening in this conversation that we're having with this documentary filmmaker. And this makes me think about, you know, an article that I'm writing, it makes me think about coffee, it makes me think about film, and so I just put those tags in, and then they're automatically generated, and I can always come back to them. I didn't really organize anything, I just typed in a few things, and I threw it in the drawer.
Okay. So you don't have to create all those folders that you did?
I don't have to, and in fact, Spencer, let's go to your, should we go to your Evernote account? Because you have fairly...
We could, yeah. It's just gonna be complicated.
Okay, but Spencer has maybe 6 notebooks.
I have fewer ones. And I did mine just to distinguish between dates, like, you know, August, March, you know, that kind of thing. But the tags that I have are like to-do lists. If I have a to-do list, that's what I tag it with,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's a list. If it's, well, I think you even have one that is business cards. One person who has written about Evernote said, whenever you meet someone, rather than like trying to carry around the business card with you forever and then losing it and, you know, being frustrated, take a picture of it with your phone really quickly, and send that to Evernote, and you have everyone's information saved, and you can go in and tag it, you know, business leader, and then you have all of that information for you without having to carry it around in physical form.
So just by way of example, I was really frustrated with the way I was using Zotero because it wasn't acting the way I thought it should act. And there's a little glitch in it that Spencer figured out, and then he suggested that I do things the way he does it. I encountered the thought of what he then described, but I hadn't recorded it, so it was useless, it was gone, right? So what Spencer did is, as we were sitting in my office, I think in Engine downtown, he said, well, do this, then do that, then do that. I said, okay, we'll create an Evernote file, and which is exactly, Spencer typed this in Scrivener, do this, do this, do this. And then I tagged it, citation, footnote, Scrivener, Spencer, Zotero, these things here,
Yeah.
right? And then I saved it, it was done. And so now when I try and figure out, let's say 2 weeks from now, you know, damn it, how does Spencer do this so it works the way that he made it work? I'll just search in my big drawer under Spencer or Scrivener or whatever, and it's there.
So to get Evernote, you just download it?
Yeah, so we'll do that right now. And the key is, if you have an iPhone, you can have an Evernote download. So let's say I'm walking downtown, I see a historic plaque, because we're historians, or you know, a plaque in Greece, whatever it might be. Evernote has a picture function, so I can take a picture of that. It's in my Evernote folder, and tag the picture. You know, it's so if I'm walking downtown and I have a brilliant thought that needs to go into my book, but I'm afraid I'm going to lose it, Evernote has a voice record function. So I talk into my iPhone, I say whatever it is that I want to say, and then it's now up there as well. So Evernote really is any thought or any piece of data or any web page you see or any whatever you want to capture, you capture it and you know it's somewhere.
So you talk it in the type, right? Like
Actually, it records an audio file.
oh, so then you just play the audio file, right?
There's a separate, this is a whole other level of complexity, there's a separate little program called Voice to Note, which is basically somebody in Mumbai typing it out, if you want.
Can you do it with a BlackBerry?
I don't know, we can go to the BlackBerry store, but if you want to download Evernote, we can do that here too.